assisted by my colleagues around the room, recognizable by their league buttons. If you would like to submit a question for a candidate, please raise your hand and a league staff member will help you. Before moving into questions and answers, I'll provide some information and go over the rules for tonight's format, which the candidates received ahead of time. I'll also have some instructions for you, the audience. Helping to provide for an informed electorate is an important league goal, one that you clearly share by your presence here as candidates and members of the audience. You'll find league membership information at the entryway. I'm happy to say that men have been welcomed to membership since 1974. Additional information about the league is available on our website, lwvspa.org. Please consider joining us in the work that we do. Voter registration for the March 14th election is closed. Pinellas County municipalities, including St. Pete Beach, will not be offering early voting during this election cycle. As usual, vote-by-mail ballots are available upon request. For more information on mail-out, pick-up, and drop-off deadlines for vote-by-mail ballots, as well as drop-off locations, visit the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections website at votepinellas.org. The City of St. Pete Beach was incorporated in 1957 and is governed by the mayor and 4 city commissioners operating under a commission/manager form of government. The mayor is elected at large and serves a 3-year term. There are no term limits. For more information about city government as well as the respective powers and duties of the mayor, council members, and city manager, visit stpetebeach.org. Here is the basic format for tonight's forum. 1 minute will be allowed for replies to audience written questions that I'll pose to the candidates. Should I determine that a rebuttal from a specific candidate or candidates is warranted, I will signal the timekeeper to allow 30 seconds for a limited rebuttal after each candidate has had an opportunity to reply to the initial audience question. Due to time constraints, I'll be keeping rebuttals to a minimum, maintaining the focus largely on direct responses to audience questions. I may also ask lightning round questions to which responses must be brief. One-word answers like yes or no, or agree or disagree. There will be no opening remarks. However, each candidate will be allowed a minute and a half to offer closing statements. The order of first response and closing remarks has been determined by number draw. The views expressed by the candidates do not represent those of the League of Women Voters or this forum's sponsor, the City of St. Pete Beach. Please turn off your cell phones and remain quiet throughout the forum. We ask that you hold your applause until after the candidates deliver their closing statements. A panel has been reviewing questions for legibility, clarity, and applicability. We'll use as many questions as time allows, but if your question does not get asked, do take advantage of opportunities to follow up with candidates following the forum. We are always sorry when we're unable to ask every question, but gratified by the strong level of civic engagement on the issues. Before I introduce tonight's candidate panel, I'd like to remind everyone that these are nonpartisan races and all registered St. Pete Beach voters will be able to cast a vote for this open seat. Now let's welcome the 3 candidates running for mayor in order of seating. First, Deborah Schechner. Second, John Michael Flagg. And third, Alan Johnson. All right, the first question. Each of you applied to be interim mayor. When you submitted your application for interim, each of you indicated no intention to run for election. Obviously, each of you changed your mind and decided to run. Why? Start.
Good evening, and thank you to everyone who has shown up today, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. It was not my intention to run for mayor, and I decided at the very last minute that my legislative relationships, my continuity of leadership is very important to our city. As I had attended several very, very important meetings throughout our county, ones that had to do with our beaches, our sewers, our stormwater, legislative budgets, I noticed that out of the three of us, I was the only one who attended. And I think that when you want to be the mayor of our St. Pete Beach, you have to show up for the sake of St. Pete Beach, and you must participate. You must gain the knowledge that you can at every single public meeting that we have in our community. Thank you.
When we were running for the interim mayor that was chosen by the commission, we agreed that if we were chosen for that commission, we would not run in this cycle. And myself and Mr. Johnson were not chosen, so we're completely free to run in this cycle.
I think I've got to take issue with the initial statement saying that the question said that we all said we would not. I said I would right from the beginning. I made that announcement in June of last year, and I've stayed with it the whole time.
All right, question 2. What is your position on short-term rentals in the residential areas of St. Pete Beach?
I've worked, gone the entire town. I have walked up and down every single street twice in this town since December, and I've come across close to 2.5 homes that are dealing with vacation rentals right now, and the neighbors are having a fit. Residential homes are residential homes in residential neighborhoods. If you want to run a business like mine where you're dealing with transients, then that's the business that you need to run in the neighborhood that is designed for that. So I am not a supporter. As much as I believe in individual property rights and hardcore, this is messing up someone else's individual property rights because you buy a house in a residential neighborhood for residential living. And so I am not really a big fan of having short-term rentals in these condos and in the houses. And I came across over 2.5 while I was campaigning. It's a waste.
I'm totally against them as well. I believe our ordinance says 30 days is a minimum. The big problem is enforcement. We need to constantly go after that. It's a problem. It really is a problem. People have been buying homes in those areas. Some of them actually rent the homes and then sublet them. This is also a tougher problem to administer. I agree with the fact we should limit it to 30 days. There is a problem if somebody wants to rent by the month, that if they decide to run for February, you can't rent for 30 days in February. So it turns out we can't change our ordinance either, because I believe the state limit is a lot less than that. I think it's a week or something. So we don't want to change our ordinance. We've been grandfathered in. So we've got an enforcement problem. So thank you.
This is something that we all agree on, it seems. I also am not in favor of short-term rentals for many reasons. Number one, it changes the complexion of your residential neighborhood. And the people who are renting those homes are not aware that they are not occupying illegal residence. So they're having their parties, playing music till late at night. You never know who's going to be there from one week to the next, and that could be a security issue. The homes are not health inspected. Chances are they're not paying the proper taxes that they're supposed to pay, and the fire inspector does not come over and check out those homes as well. And it's a big problem up and down the beach. In St. Pete Beach, we're very lucky because the legislature has passed a law where it's almost a free-for-all property rights. So anybody can rent and do anything with their home that they wish to do as far as rentals. So for me, we have to keep the laws in our city intact, and we do have a new code enforcement officer who's certified, and right now, that's his top priority. So thank you.
Next question. It has recently come to light that the sheriff's patrol force for our town is changed out every 6 weeks. How strongly would you try to persuade the sheriff's department to keep a permanent deputy patrol force in St. Pete Beach that is familiar to our town and its people?
I'd be strongly pushing them for that. I think one of the advantages that we thought we'd get when we went to the sheriff was that this was a pretty good assignment for any deputy. And we thought we'd be able to get the senior deputies that would stay because they had seniority and could select this as an assignment. Now I've heard that they've just recently heard that they have been swapping people out quite rapidly, and I'd want that to stop in a hurry. I think we need to make sure we get some continuity.
When the whole
Sorry, you answered the question first, Craig.
Yes.
Yes, so
Deborah
then it
Schechner.
goes to...
Thank you. I feel strongly that we need to have a continuity of our sheriff's offices. They need to know our neighborhoods. They have, since we've had some break-ins, stepped up their patrols. They're patrolling at night. They're checking car doors. They're making sure that you close your garage door. Please, everybody, lock your car door, lock your house, and please lock your garage. Every day, all the time. So I'm looking for more continuity. I've said that before. It's very, very important that the sheriff knows our neighborhoods, knows our streets, knows who should be here and should not be here, because the health and safety of the residents of our community is of prime importance to me. And I think that stepping up our sheriff's department, meeting with the sheriff, getting our police reports monthly, which we do now, is very important to see what's going on in our neighborhood, and we have to share the information freely so everybody is safe.
When we went against our own police department and basically threw them out of town and contracted with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, I was a vocal opponent of that. As a matter of fact, I was interviewed not only by two of the television networks at the time, but on the year anniversary of the change of the police department, I was interviewed again to see if my opinion had changed, and it had not. And for some of the same reasons that have already been brought up. One of the things that was supposed to have been done was we were supposed to be considered like a precinct, and we were supposed to have had someone assigned here. Now, Officer Mancusi, because of all the mess that was going on, Officer Mancusi was assigned here for quite some time, and he was excellent at stabilizing all the concerns of the local residents. But he got promoted for being such a good job here, and I absolutely agree that we have got to have a district where we have the same police.
Next question. How are you going to alleviate the massive traffic on Gulf? That hit a nerve.
Is that my question?
Yes.
Or is that well, first of all, we have to complete our construction, and that might help. The good news is Passerville will be finished soon. The bad news is Phase 2 of Passerville will begin right after that. We try to keep all the construction in our city the best that we can in non-peak forms. Unfortunately or fortunately, the people who come to visit St. Pete Beach come back again and again and again. We have more day trippers than we've ever had, resulting in more traffic. Perhaps Uber can be used to take people from where they are and use the bus system or other ways of getting to St. Pete Beach, and we might want to encourage that. But at this point in time, we have just a couple of lanes of traffic, and we know as residents we have to deal with extra traffic. We have to leave early, especially during the upcoming college break season. So please just have patience like the rest of us. Thank you.
Yes.
Ditto. You got to have, please pardon our improvement.
Well, I think the future is that if we make this place more walkable and bicycle friendly, we'd have less traffic. I'm not saying it's going to go away, because it won't. It's a very popular destination, and that's one of the reasons we have all the amenities that we do on this island. We've got a tourist destination matched with a residential community, and for that reason, we have a full-service city. And we've got to be a little bit tolerant of the fact that we about quadruple our population during the season when you've got our residents who own here and stay here, the full-timers, and we have snowbirds, and then we have an equal number of visitors at any one point in time. So we have to be tolerant of the jam up, because the rest of the year we're reaping the benefits. More bicycle lanes, more walking will help some. It won't alleviate everything, but we can try.
Next question. Since the city of St. Petersburg can't adequately treat its own sewage, and St. Pete Beach's sewage is sent to St. Petersburg for processing, and often our sewage has to be trucked out for treatment, how strongly would you oppose any additional development with additional wastewater, toilets, showers, pools, laundry, to St. Pete Beach's decaying and inadequate sewage infrastructure? Candidate Flake.
You know, I moved to St. Pete Beach. I was actually here on vacation and just fell in love with the place and never left. And that was in 2004. And I have not been a supporter of the mega development in the entire time that I've lived here. And in the entire time that I've lived here, whenever I do come to these commissions, one of the top 3 things I've always complained about besides parking was the lack of infrastructure. When it comes to water, it's even more serious, because it is not just the amount of water that's going out and what we're doing with it, but it's also the unhealthy water coming in, because all of the plants and the funneling systems and the filtering systems that are used to provide us with drinking water are grossly outdated. And there is caffeine and mercury and prescription drugs and bleach and everything else in small particles still left in our drinking water. So there is a dual issue here, and whoever sits at this job has got to be extremely aggressive and proactive with all of the other governments around us to get the water on and off expeditiously and cleanly.
The problems that we heard about St. Petersburg and having their sewer issues is a treatment issue. They closed down a plant before they expanded another one. We are fortunate. Our system is designed to do nothing more than get it off the island. They treat it for us. The plant that we pump it to is only operating at a little more than half capacity, so they have plenty of capacity for us. That being said, with the study that was done last year, we now know what we have to do to not only fix our system so it's operating like it should have, for it was designed 60 years ago, but also that we can expand to, satisfy what we have on the ground right now, because we are undersized as it is. There hasn't been a new hotel built here I think for about 20 years, 25 years. I think it was in the 80s, other than the Zamora, of course. But that means that it's the residences that have caused the problem. So we need to upgrade the sewers and clean up what we have.
I think it's clear to everyone here that we cannot add one more toilet to a commercial district, and that is a severe problem that we're working on. Now, part of that issue is inflow and infiltration. Approximately 33% of the water that we treat and pay to treat that goes over to St. Pete is clean water. So your rates are higher because we are treating that clean water. It will cost us about $5.4 million over 5 years to complete lining our pipes and taking care of the inflow and infiltration, which costs us a lot of money. A study was done in 2002 that indicated we needed to take care of those problems back then. It's 15 years ago. I do not want a mayor 15 years from now asking the question, why didn't you fix the sewers way back when? Why are you giving us this problem? We have 101 worst manholes that we're repairing now that are a mess. We have 800 manholes, 700 to go. Thank you.
What are our real chances of getting our fair share of bed tax from the county and sales tax from the state? Candidate Johnson.
That's what they refer to in the golf world as a long putt. It's something that has to be changed in Tallahassee. It would take years to get it done. We've got some what I'd refer to as low-hanging fruit. We may be able to get more money back out of things like a community development area. There's ways we can approach, getting getting money to fund these projects through grants and other sources, public-private partnerships, for instance. But getting Tallahassee to change anything is going to take a long time. It's got to. It's a legislative thing that we have to. We can push on it, but we're going to need help.
Well, I have approached that subject not only with some of our local people and businesses, and as well as our legislators. I think we have a fair shot of getting back some of our sales tax dollars, and the reason for that is St. Pete Beach is a donor city. If you have a city of 10,000 residents who has absolutely no tourism, and a city like ours of 10,000 residents that has lots of tourists that we support, we both get back the same amount in sales tax. I have had talks with some of our legislators looking at maybe giving us a 40% kick-up so that we can compete, so that we can fix our infrastructure, so our hotels can develop, so that we can have good business in the city of St. Pete Beach. I think it's very, very important to also note that as I've talked to some of the people involved in bed tax, they've approached me with the thought of pick one project. Maybe we can, afford to help you with one project. Pinellas County collected $55 million in bed tax last year. We need some of it.
Being a small motel co-founder, I've got problems with overtaxation and double taxing for the same thing. A lot of it's unconstitutional, but here we go. We have a county commission that is nearly illegal because some of them should have been term limited out and they just ignored it. Too many of these commissions and the people that sit on them just ignore all of the rules. One of the things that we can do besides having our mayor as a public bully pulpit for the bedroom tax, and also we can look at suing, because here's what I would like to try to work out doing. Most of Pinellas County is unincorporated. The county council, county commission is supposed to be dealing with that and that alone, and all these other little towns are handling our own problems. If we can work it out either through lawsuit or through working it out or fighting it out with the county council and getting the bedroom tax reduced from 1.5 to them and 1.5 to 2% for us, it saves on the hotels and it gives us our own money that is made in our own community.
All right. How would you handle the PSTA if they were to return with yet another bus service proposal? Candidate Schechner, we start with you.
PSTA is very interesting. We already give them $500,000 a year, and they wanted us to give them $1.7 million more so we could have rapid transit come to our city. I'm patently opposed to that. I will not take something that might be a want for a few people, because we have needs in our city that we can use that $1.7 million for. Apparently, the rapid transit gets federal dollars, and our route is absolutely the best fit for that rapid transit. I think an alternative would be that we give absolutely no money extra, for sure. That I will not approve that under any circumstances. But that maybe they can have a rapid transit go back before St. Pete and our city and end up at the 75th Avenue transfer station, and then people can go from there. But I will not give PSTA any more money, and I want to see what their plan is. I want to see how big those bus stops are as well. There's a lot more to look at, but they're not getting any more money from me.
I have attended all of those public transit meetings in person, and I've been the most vocal and loudly outspoken opponent of every one of their proposals, because basically they're pension prop-ups. But I was at the meeting where everybody that sat on this commission claimed that they supported the whole idea and were going to put out letters to all these organizations, but there was such a loud outcry that they couldn't go forward right now, but they could come back at us with another idea or another plan. Keep coming back until finally whoever's sitting on this commission just gives up and gets in the way. the whole idea, I stood right at that podium, and I looked at the substitute manager of the town at the time, because he was out of town, and told them they were going to write a letter. This whole commission, this current sitting commission, was going to write a letter that said that we agreed. And I said, no, no, no,
All right, it's time
no.
to stop.
Deborah's right. We've been on the finance board for 5 years now, and every year we get a higher assessment from our PSTA folks. It goes up about $50,000 a year, and it is just over $500,000 now. If you look at what the Greenlight Pinellas proposal was here, what, a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, you look at their PSTA's routes, and about 70% of their riders are in 8 routes out of the 60 that they have, and those routes all come down the beach in the trolley. And now they're saying put a rapid transit in. The rapid transit, in my opinion, will take away a lot of the people that are on those routes anyway. It won't bring additional people in like they say. I'm totally against it. I mean, they need us much more than we need them.
All right, I just want to make an announcement that we are closing the question collection at this point. Like we did with the police department, should St. Pete Beach combine or pay St. Petersburg, Pinellas County to take over fire service/EMS? This could possibly save expenses in the long run. Candidate Flake, we start with you.
No.
Okay.
Good answer. I would have to see a lot of documentation as to what it would do. I don't want to lose our fire people. I think there was some advantages that we're now seeing with the sheriff when we got rid of our police force that didn't come out quite the way we'd like them, and I think we got some work to do on that contract. I don't know that there's not a one county fire organization like we have a sheriff around here, so I doubt that there's going to be anything that would really save us a lot of money. But like I tell our fire chief, Jim Kilpatrick, all the time, he's got the most expensive toys that we own. So now they are an expense, but they are expense, and I think we, at least for the time being, we need to look at it. I don't know that there's an option, not like the sheriff was for our police force.
In my opinion, we must keep our fire and EMS in-house in St. Pete Beach. Response times are crucial to the health and safety and the lives of the people who live here. And I think people don't realize how much our fire department as well as EMS do for our community. They come to all of our community events. They cook meals, hot dogs, some of the best pork you've ever had in your life. People line up to get it. You know where all those profits go? They go back into our community. They don't keep those profits for themselves. They have people they visit the schools, they make friends with the kids in the community. But again, it all goes back to the health and safety of the people in the city, and I will never put that at risk. Our fire department is crucial. And when you live on the water, you darn well better have a good fire department, preferably with a boat to save people in the water. Thank you.
10 years ago, St. Pete Beach developed a community redevelopment plan that was challenged in court and cost the city over $1 million. As mayor, would you support redevelopment, and to what extent?
I believe the limits that were arrived at in the final plan are good. I would not support going higher, going with higher densities or anything. It's a good balance to me to keep the foundation of our tourist industry intact, which is the hotels, and at the same time not change the character of this place we love and we call home. We've got to maintain the fact that we're running a balance here. It's a balance between being a community of a residential community, a little beach town on the Gulf of Mexico, and also a tourist destination that people come from all over the world to see. And I believe that the plan that we now have is in place should be adhered to. But we shouldn't be reluctant when we find errors in the thing to fix them. I know we have some changes that are coming up right now that were legislated, by Tallahassee, and that happens periodically. But I wouldn't support changing the plan any in terms of the heights and densities and all that.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Candidate Schechner.
Thank you. Well, right now, we're the luckiest people in the world because we live in St. Pete Beach. We moved here knowing there was tourism, and we support it. And we really enjoy, or I really enjoy, meeting the people from all over the world, families who have come back here for 18 years in a row, bring their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. It's really, we're the luckiest people to live in this beach paradise. Right now, in the large resort district, they can build to a height of 116 feet. There will be no variances given above that amount, and that's about a mile long in the middle of our city. So that was a settlement agreement. It was agreed on and sanctioned by the court. I stand by that. I look forward to it. And as soon as we get our sewer systems fixed, we'll be able to have that development, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
We are a pretty good balance here. There's roughly about 10,000 people that live here year-round, and there is a lifestyle on St. Pete Beach. You know, you got a lot of people that talk about development, but in all the years that I've been living here, we've been to the top 3 or 4 beach in the United States and number 5 in the world by TripAdvisor for at least the last half a decade, as we are now, because we have preserved to the best of our ability the old world Florida style of beach living. And I think that that absolutely has to be protected. My problems with the comp plan were on principle. You had a whole bunch of bureaucrats, many who had never even stepped foot in the state, the county, or the town, and they all decided how we were supposed to plan our town and how we were supposed to live and do business. The position of mayor is one of the first persons that is used to fight against encroachment, and one of the last line of defenses for our citizens against other government encroachments, including the county, the state, and the federal. So my problem was on principle.
Thank you. I understand there's a proposal on the table concerning lining the sanitary sewer lines. What will this accomplish if volume is the problem? Candidate Schechner, we start with you.
Thank you. Well, right now, we have cleaned out our sewer pipes, and surprise, surprise, between 2 manholes, which is 2 blocks, was 12 tons of debris. That has been cleaned out. Our sewer pipes have been cleaned. They have had cameras running down each one of the sewer pipes. And what happens with lining the sewer pipes is that you don't disturb the neighborhood. You take the end of the sewer pipe, you line it with a material. That material, once inside, expands, seals the holes, seals the cracks, and allows us to have a sewer line that actually works. And it's economical in a sense because you're not replacing the whole pipe. So it really is a good option for the city of St. Pete Beach to line whenever possible. And I anticipate that we'll be doing lots of that. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, when that was brought up at the regular meetings, anybody with any kind of knowledge of the sewer systems, either residential or commercial, knows that that's a very good idea. It's financially cost effective and responsible. Absolutely.
Yeah, we are in the process of finishing up the cleaning of all those sewer pipes that we have so we can line them. Unfortunately, they have deteriorated in some spots to the point where we have to actually excavate and go down and replace pipes because the gaps are too big. We do also have several, actually 3 different projects that have been identified, and we got estimates for the cost of those that will give us not only the capacity we need for now and in the future, but now we're undersized already. Our system, even if we restored it to its original design capacity, is about 30% undersized. So we need to make repairs, certainly. We also need to make some improvements and increase capacity just to handle what we have.
Next question. Who is your largest campaign contributor? We start with candidate Flake.
Me.
My turn?
Yes.
Me.
And I will address that the same way. Me.
Okay, that was very fast. Okay. Do you believe in less or more regulation for small business owners? We're starting with candidate Johnson this time.
I don't know if it's regulation or what. I do know that all the business owners that I've talked to during this campaign always tell me how difficult it is to work with City Hall. I don't know if that has to do with the regulations or the way we enforce them or what, but I think they need to be looked at. I don't know that they're onerous, that they're a lot different than any other place around, but I have heard a lot of complaints, and it just has to do with how they have to deal with City Hall, not necessarily the regulations themselves.
Candidate Schechner.
Well, nobody likes more regulation on businesses. We just need to make sure that buildings are safe and that food is prepared in a proper way. I don't believe in raising any of the costs for licensing for our businesses in St. Pete Beach. You know, and quite frankly, we don't have a lot of control on what the regulations are. They normally come down from the county and from the state, and we have no choice but to enforce those regulations. But I also believe that, you know, business and free enterprise is good for the city of St. Pete Beach.
Before I even tried to open up a business in St. Pete Beach, and I was just a resident here, I've had a problem with codes. And one of the problems is if you have a rule and you turn around and pay the town's extortion money, you can get a variance to get around the rule. And that's if you're in town and you know that that can happen. When you have, in the entire state of Florida, Pinellas County has got the most codes open on the books right now. And of all the municipalities in Pinellas County, St. Pete Beach has the most codes. So when you have a business looking to do business here and they go and they look through the codes, they don't really know all the nuances of getting around them. Plus, too many people are getting around them. One of the worst things that I've been hearing ever since I lived here was that nobody's fixing up their properties. Well, you try and own a commercial property in this town and fix it up. Codes is a nightmare, and I would go through every single line. And again, the mayor is a line of defense against encroaching governments. A minute is not enough for a question like that.
What do you plan to do? What do you plan to do about speeders down Boca Ciega Drive? Also, what about the drainage grates filled with cement? We start with candidate Schechner.
Well, that is an issue, speeders going down Boca Ciega Drive, because it has now become a parallel road for those in the know, so to speak. So now you've just opened yourself up to more people going down Boca Ciega Road. And so I think that we have to use some traffic calming landscape, and I do believe that our city commission has approved some money for that so that we can take care of it. We also have to have maybe more police patrols, and perhaps after you get a warning or a speeding ticket, you won't be going fast down that road anymore. You know, and again, it comes down to, you know, bike lanes, it comes down to landscaping. Most people don't want speed bumps, but I guess if necessary, we would have to do that. But it is a problem, and as far as the grates are concerned, a lot of that has to do with maintenance. It has to do with people who illegally dumped in our grates, but right now, our city is doing a really great job of cleaning all those up. And it's also something that has to be maintained on a regular basis.
Yes.
You know, when you have too much government involvement in every aspect of your life, you start losing self-respect, and you start losing self-reliance, and you start losing a neighborhood coming together. When we're sitting out on our dock, and anybody that lives out here and all the neighbors with their boats, they all know that manatees and dolphins are out there. Everybody knows it. And when we're out on our docks, if a speeder's coming by, we got a little bullhorn, and we let them know we're not happy. So when you're going to sit here and throw out an entire bushel of apples because 2 of them went bad, that is just not using the brain power and putting up speed bumps and stop signs to aggravate everyone else that lives here because of a couple of yo-yos that can't think for anything past themselves. You know, the community needs to be involved.
I've talked with numerous residents that live down in Boca Ciega, and they all have said the same thing, that the speeding down there is awful. And I've spent some time on it. I usually go down there on my bicycle too, and it's kind of scary, particularly when they're dropping their kids off to school. So I can relate. I think more surveillance, police presence out there might be the way to start with it. I believe we can't put a speed bump up around this town unless we get 70% of the residents on that street to vote in favor of it. So putting speed bumps, I'm not sure is going to happen either. But yeah, we do need to put more surveillance in there. Maybe a stop sign or two, but you know, it is a problem, a very big problem.
The next question. The execution of the construction on Pasagrill Ave defies logic. I didn't write it. I recognize there are many constraints, but I have to believe that we can do better. Do you have any thoughts or lessons learned we can apply to Phase 2? Starting with Candidate Flake.
Pretty much all of us either attended the meetings or watched them online or read the agendas, and with all the difficulties that everybody came across getting this all lined up, I think, quite frankly, they're doing a good job. And the Phase 2 is not expected to find some of the same problems. It should go a little bit more expeditiously. But for the amount of work that was done, the amount of planning that it took, pardon the inconvenience, but we're growing and we're doing it really quite responsibly when it comes to that project.
Having spent a lot of time in the construction and contracting business, one of the things that we refer to is they have drawings for all where the pipes are. They call them as-builts. They put a pipe in there, and if they move it or they put it someplace else, they create a revised drawing that's supposed to reflect what's there. The drawings that were describing what was on the north end in Phase 1 were not only just a little bit off, but they in some cases had pipes that were on the wrong side of the road from where they were indicated. So that's why they did a lot of that. Now, on the second phase, they've done ultrasonic on the underground. They've done some underground radar, if you will. So they now have a better idea of where the pipes really are. They won't have any of the big disconnects that we had on Phase 1. We expect that project should go a lot more smoothly than Phase 1 did because of that change.
Well, I do thank you to every person who travels down Pasagrill these days. It's a long, hard road to get down, but Nelson Construction has made it as pleasant as possible when they can for detours. When we sat outside of Nancy Marco's gallery for months, finding all kinds of pipes crisscrossing, we had to sometimes wait for Pinellas County Water to come out and shut off the water, or to fix the repair so that we could continue with the construction. There are gas lines down that road. Again, the gas company would have to come down and fix those gas lines. So roads were held up for a very, very long time. I remember them telling me that on this side of the road was where the gas line was supposed to be. Unfortunately, it was on that side. Phase 2 will go, fingers crossed, much easier. It's less of a project. It has, again, been ultrasonically changed. I mean, scientifically and ultrasonically looked at. Thank you.
Next question. We seem to be, via our building codes and regulations, encouraging demolition of historical properties in Pasagrill. Those that do preserve do so at great expense. What will you do to change this dynamic? Candidate Johnson.
Well, I believe we've got a form-based code that's being implemented as an overlay that is designed to do exactly that, so that we can maintain what we have. I mean, unfortunately, with some restrictions, you live in a free democratic society, and one of the things that the downside of that is that home ownership is pretty much the trump card, and you can do what you want within reason. We have to set the guidelines up to encourage people to keep what we have. The historical designation and all that I'm not real familiar with, but I know that helps too. So they can't go changing anything that and making it look a lot different just because it is designated as a historical building or something.
Schechner?
Or yes.
Well, we just passed a Pasagrill overlay. It was a hard 10 years coming, And one of our commissioners in District 4 was very happy for that to happen. Paso Grill is one of the most special places on earth. We all know that. It's quaint, it's beautiful, it has lovely beaches, and we want to try to keep it that way. What's interesting about the Paso Grill overlay is that it can be a fluid document, so that if we find out that it's not working, we can tweak it so that it does work. We can't keep tearing down historical buildings and putting up huge McMansions, because Paso Grill will no longer exist if we keep on doing that. So I'm very happy that we did pass the Paso Grill overlay project, and let's just hope that it works well and that people will want to invest and to keep their properties historic. Thank you.
When I first came to St. Pete Beach, what actually compelled me to start attending town hall meetings on a regular basis was the historical movement in Paso Grill to get it on the registry, because the hotel that I was staying in at the time, we were pushing to get the line extended to include that motel, because it was built to house the doctors and nurses when the Don Cesar was a hospital during the war. But there's a little bit of schizophrenia that goes on in this town, because you sit here and you have people in Paso Grill saying that they want to preserve it, but then you turn around and someone that owes this town and several other towns fines and things for their codes and legal fees and everything else, and we just do away with our fines and our codes, let them tear down a perfectly good house that, 60, 70 grand could have been brought up fine, and put up a McMansion. So not only did we lose...
This is an informational question, and it's been asked to candidate Schechner, but the other two candidates are available to speak on this as well. We are paying an extra tax for infrastructure yearly, about $78. Is that money allotted only for sewers, or has it been going into general funds? And all three of you can address that.
That money does never go into general funds. That's why I support it. It's only used for stormwater and or sewers, because we have two of those funds. So I think that's very important for people to know. It does not go into our general fund. It's its own separate fund, and it's used only to fix our infrastructure. And I will never, ever support it going into the general fund and under any circumstances. So it's very important for us to know that that amount on our bill, and some probably pay more if you use more water and throughout the year, that's on your utility bill. This one is a yearly bill, and so it does not go into the general fund at all. You can count on that.
Would either of the other two candidates like to address that topic?
Yes, I would. Deborah's right. We have three enterprise funds, we call them: the stormwater, reclaimed water, and sewer water. And what the idea is that those would be funded sufficiently to do maintenance on those systems every year, and to be funded by usage fees, like the sewer thing that comes on your water bill. So, and I fully agree with her that once we get to where like in the sewer system, if we get it to where it should be, the maintenance should come out of that fund. There shouldn't be anything coming from the general fund to support it. Those are supposed to be self-sufficient. That's why they were created.
I showed up at that commission meeting also, and I spoke out against the tax. Pinellas County doesn't even have 1 million people that live in it. I think it's roughly just under 700,000, and they have a $2.5 billion budget. St. Pete Beach barely has 10,000 people living here, and we've got an over $15 million a year budget. Let's just not even bother with the waste in the state in Tallahassee. But I wanted to fight over the bedroom tax. I believe that fight is absolutely a waste because of not being done. There is millions of dollars taking from us that we're not getting back, and we need to fight over that. Raising taxes, there's plenty of taxes. There are billions of dollars circulating through this state, and it's all corrupted, grafted, cronied, and wasted.
What is your position on balancing the big hotels and commercial interests with the permanent residents of St. Pete Beach? We start with candidate Flake.
Here's one of the things that I've said at several of these meetings about the trade winds. Again, we've got codes to protect our lifestyle, and then we let them go around the corner. The same thing with the PST and the green light and all these other things. And so he's buying up other properties and then being able to change the variances. When you have all of these conference rooms and restaurants and all this stuff trapped into one property, everybody else is going to suffer because the money's not leaving the property. And when you have these codes that are hundreds of pages long, it is cheaper for these out-of-town Yankee developers to tear this crap down and build up new stuff. And if we streamlined and modernized our codes and fought with the county to do the same thing, we could preserve a lot of the lifestyle that people are living and moving here for. But it's not cost-effective for any of us to fix up our motels because of codes.
I think as I said earlier, the comp plan that we have now is a good balance between commercial interests, meaning our tourist industry, which is the foundation of that is the hotels. If the hotels can't compete, then the tourists, they may come to our beach, but they'll stay in downtown St. Pete, and guess what? They won't spend any money here. Our lifestyle changes because all of our restaurants goes away, and we're becoming a residential community, and our taxes will go up, and it's going to be. The place will change if you don't sort of go with the changes that are coming in the industry, and that's mainly the hotels. I think we've got a great balance. I don't want to see us mess with the comp plan at all. We spent a lot of time getting there and a lot of arguments over it. Now I think that's behind us, and let's go ahead and put it to work. But we need to make sure that we adhere to what we've agreed to, and that's densities and height restrictions, setbacks, everything else.
Candidate Schechner.
My philosophy is collaboration, conversations, tearing down walls, and opening doors. And we were able to do that when Silver Sands residents were opposing the Postcard Inn having a meeting building with a garage on top. It took a lot of work on my part, as well as the part of our city staff and the other commissioners, to make sure that we understood both sides. I met with all of the presidents of Silver Sands. I met with the general manager of Postcard Inn. And we came to an agreement. When I looked out in that audience, and we have both sides who have opposed each other for years like this, shaking their heads yes, it was triumphant for the city of St. Pete Beach. And so that's how I would see us balancing the residents and the businesses and the hotels. It's about conversations, and it's about taking down walls. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to do something called a lightning round, which means that the candidates have to answer in 1 or 2 words. So I'm going to make this difficult on you. The question is, would you replace sewers or put a liner in? So your answer has to be either replace sewers or put a liner in, and that's it. And we're starting with candidate Johnson.
Obviously put a liner in.
Candidate Schechner.
You put a liner in unless it's broken. I had to do it. You can't put a liner in everything.
Candidate Flake.
The same.
Okay. All right. How are you going to make a difference in our city? And we start with candidate Schechner.
I think I've already made a difference in our city as a mayor and the interim mayor in this time period because I've made relationships with state legislators. There's House Bill 2007 that has been drawn up for us by our Representative Peters. We're bringing $2.5 million to our city for this year and another $2.5 million for next year. That's to fix our sewers. That's our need. We're also looking at a public-private partnership with a hotel to help us build our pipes that have to go across Gulf Boulevard that are very costly. If we look at balancing our city and we look at our development that has to be beautiful, it has to be within the 116 feet tall, whatever you, as far as I'm concerned, whatever you want to put inside those four walls is your business.
All right, your time is up.
Okay.
Candidate Flake.
I think that it is very important to understand the differences between the commissioners and the mayors. The commissioners are responsible for catering to the majority in their district, but the mayor is responsible for preserving and protecting and enhancing the overall lifestyle that here on the beach. And I think that in order to bring our beach forward into the future and have a more stable current day-to-day lifestyle, we're going to need a mayor who is motivational, who energizes, and who has been in the community as a business person, a resident, and socially for years and years. Somebody who has been at the meetings and proven that they have the pulse of the community. I warned the commission against...
I'm going to have you repeat the exact question again, please.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
How are you going to make a difference in our city?
Well, doing my background, I think, is extremely well suited for what we need near term as well as in the intermediate term, I guess 5-10 years out. The way I look at it is you're being elected to be the mayor-commissioner. If you look at our ordinances and our charter, you're one of 5 votes that manages the city. Granted, 4 of the commissioners are hired by their respective districts, but they're all working for the good of the city, and that's what should be their focus. I'm a team player. I have been my whole career with, in the industry, and none of this is done alone. Nobody can take credit for that. It's all done as a group. The money that Deborah referred to, that was started back in the early part of last year with under the emphasis of our former mayor. So, it doesn't happen instantly, and it's something we have to.
Okay, your time is up.
I am going to ask for a rebuttal.
All right, you may have a rebuttal. Quickly.
When I became mayor of this city, I set up meetings with all of our legislative delegates, and I asked for money for our city. It wasn't based on money from any other person prior to me, although I think Maria was an absolutely fabulous mayor. I want to make it clear that it was my hard work that's bringing that money to our city, and it's my hard work and meetings with every one of the legislative delegates that we have, and including ones outside our district that I approach, because I want our city to prosper. Thank you.
All right, now we're ready for closing remarks. And based on the number draw that was done earlier this evening, Candidate Johnson begins with the closing remarks.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. I think it's been very beneficial. I really have to offer a heartfelt thanks to all of you here in the room and anybody watching at home. You're taking the time out of your lives to be an informed voter. Democracy's hard work at times, and you're taking that responsibility seriously, and I commend you for it. I was educated as an engineer and spent 35 years in industry. 25 of those, the last 25, here in the state of Florida, where I called on municipalities as a supplier of services as well as materials. I moved to, because of that, I understand how municipalities function from a supplier standpoint, and I know the rules that they live under and have worked with them. I think that's helpful when you're on the other side in the government itself. I moved to St. Pete Beach in 1998. I got involved right from the beginning, and over this 35-year career, I realized I was chasing profits instead of doing what I really want to do, which is now I'm blessed with the ability to go ahead and make a difference in my community. I've been doing that since I moved here. And I want to make a bigger impact and do more. I need your help. I need your vote. So on Election Day, vote for
Your
Al
time is
Johnson
up.
for mayor.
Candidate Flake.
The overall philosophy of trying to live your life and trying to do business comes from trial and error. And I've been self-employed my entire life. I have started businesses completely from scratch, hands-on, some of them construction because I was a commercial property manager. When you are taking an idea and then strategizing and then involving the team players that can implement, and when you start earning your financing and all of the other things that go on, it's a long and tedious process. And I have done it on multiple businesses in multiple states successfully. You have to be able to stay focused. You've got to be able to keep those around you focused. You have to stay energized. You have to keep those around you energized. A project from start to finish is almost basically a living entity. And it takes a lot of drive, a lot of motivation, and a lot of team spirit. And again, with the crowd that is here right now, I would love as mayor to be able to motivate this town to have this kind of a turnout at all of our town meetings. I think a lot of things would get done a lot faster if we had a lot more involvement with the town and the people that live in it. And I will motivate people that live in this town to be involved. I will give you something to talk about.
Okay.
I want to just give kudos to our staff as well, who helped us get that bill to Kathleen Peters. I didn't do it all by myself, obviously. Good evening, and thank you to all our residents for coming here this evening. I am grateful to the League of Women Voters for hosting our candidates forum. My first priority is the health and safety of residents, and to that end, our sewer system must be repaired and functioning. Repairing infrastructure also supports our economy, our environment, and our quality of life. I believe the predictor of future successes are demonstrated by my current achievements and leadership in resolving disputes between residents and hoteliers, resulting in the approval of the postcard end project. It moves our city forward. There's momentum in our city right now. I continue to promote transparency and collaboration, having open monthly meetings with residents, casual conversations, and continuing the monthly meetings with our hoteliers. Listening to concerns and resolving challenges as your mayor is another priority of mine. I bring business acumen. I've had my own family business for many years. I was on the budget and finance board. My experience and my show up and get it done attitude serves our city well. My many years of service to our community allowed for a seamless transition to the mayor position. Showing up and having a voice demonstrates leadership and caring about our residents, businesses, and our beautiful beach community.
Your time is up.
Please vote for Deborah.
I'd like to close by thanking the candidates for being here tonight and sharing their views, and the City of St. Pete Beach for hosting and sponsoring tonight's forum. I'd like to also thank all of you for your participation. And thank you to you. And thank you very much. I send people to your site all the time.